In the silent expanse of the Caribbean, lines of influence are being drawn that don't appear on any public map. For decades, the Western Hemisphere was considered America's undisputed backyard, a region secured by geography and the long shadow of the Monroe Doctrine. But while Washington was focused on conflicts half a world away, a ghost from the Cold War has returned. Not with a single dramatic move, but with 1,000 quiet cuts. Russia is back in Latin America, but this isn't the Soviet Union of old. This is a new, more calculated strategy. A hybrid campaign of steel, silicon, and whispers designed to distract, destabilize, and directly challenge the United States on its own doorstep. It's a strategy built on three key pillars: Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua, which are being transformed into forward operating bases in a 21st century shadow war. This isn't just about diplomacy. It's the architecture of a new kind of standoff, and it's raising a terrifying question. Are we witnessing the opening moves of the next Cuban Missile Crisis? In June of 2024, a Russian naval fleet, including the nuclear-powered submarine Kazan and the missile frigate Admiral Gorshkov, slipped into Havana Bay. Officially, it was a routine port call, but these weren't just any ships. The Gorshkov and Kazan are among Russia's most modern naval assets, capable of launching hypersonic missiles. Their arrival, just 90 miles from the coast of Florida, was a carefully choreographed signal. These aren't isolated visits. They are punctuation marks in a much longer sentence being written by Moscow. For years, Russia has been methodically building a new alliance of thorns in America's sphere of influence. In Venezuela, elite Russian private military contractors reportedly provide security for the government. In Nicaragua, a Russian satellite station, built just across a lagoon from the U.S. Embassy, has fueled widespread suspicion that it's an intelligence gathering post. And in Cuba, military and intelligence ties are now the closest they've been since the Cold War's most terrifying standoff. This is a new doctrine of confrontation, one that doesn't rely on a single dramatic threat, but on a persistent, creeping presence. It's a presence designed to bleed American resources, divert attention, and prove that the bear can still show its claws anywhere it chooses. Section 1. The Problem. Russia's Doctrine of Asymmetric Challenge. To understand what's happening in Latin America, you have to understand the shift in Moscow's thinking. The Kremlin's foreign policy is no longer just about defending its borders. It's about actively countering U.S. influence wherever it can. It's a strategy of asymmetric response. For every action the West takes in what Russia considers its backyard, like supporting Ukraine, Moscow seeks to create a proportional problem in Americas. Latin America has become the perfect theater for this strategy. The playbook is what military analysts call hybrid warfare, a fusion of conventional and unconventional tactics. It involves military deployments and arms deals, but also cyber warfare, intelligence gathering, and, perhaps most importantly, information warfare. The goal isn't necessarily to win a conventional war, but to achieve strategic objectives below the threshold of open conflict. This means creating instability, undermining faith in democratic institutions, propping up authoritarian allies, and forcing the U.S. to expend capital close to home. This isn't just opportunistic, it's doctrinal. In 2023, Russia updated its foreign policy concept, placing a greater emphasis on Latin America and the Caribbean. The objective is clear: to foster a multipolar world order by eroding American dominance. Moscow has systematically pursued this through intense diplomatic tours, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov making repeated visits to Brazil, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba to shore up alliances. It's a long game, designed to create a network of states that are not just friendly to Russia, but actively hostile to the United States. This alliance provides Moscow with more than just votes at the United Nations. It provides physical and digital territory from which to project power directly into the Western Hemisphere. The United States, for its part, still maintains the largest military footprint in the region. But as that presence has declined, its rivals have been eager to fill the vacuum. General Laura Richardson, the commander of U.S. Southern Command, has repeatedly warned of this growing competition, stating that the U.S. now faces adversaries right here on the 20-yard line to our homeland. The game has changed. The question is whether Washington has realized it yet. Section 2, Pillar 1, Venezuela the Fortress. The linchpin of Russia's strategy in the Americas is Venezuela. More than just an ally, Venezuela has been transformed into a virtual fortress for Russian interests, a strategic beachhead on the South American continent. The relationship, initiated under Hugo Chavez, has deepened into a comprehensive strategic alliance under Nicolas Maduro. In May of 2025, Presidents Putin and Maduro signed a sweeping strategic partnership agreement in Moscow. The deal formalized years of deepening cooperation and laid out a roadmap in key sectors like the military, energy, and finance, with both sides vowing to oppose unilateral sanctions. The military dimension is the most alarming. Russia is not just selling Venezuela weapons, it's embedding itself within the country's defense architecture. Moscow has supplied Caracas with everything from fighter jets to sophisticated air defense systems. This has been followed by the deployment of Russian military personnel, officially trainers and advisors, to maintain this advanced equipment. These troops are tasked with keeping Venezuela's air defenses operational, a mission that gives Russia a direct hand in the country's security. Beyond official troops, there's the shadowy presence of Russian private military contractors. Since at least 2019, reports have suggested these mercenaries are tasked with providing personal security for Maduro himself, a clear sign of Moscow's investment in the regime's survival. There are also allegations of cooperation in intelligence and counter-espionage, suggesting a plan to expand Russia's covert capabilities using Venezuela as a hub. Discussions have also persisted for years about Russia gaining access to the strategic La Orquilla Island airbase, a move that would give Moscow a permanent staging ground in the Caribbean, though no final agreement has been confirmed. Economically, Russia has become Venezuela's lifeline. Russian state oil companies have been instrumental in helping Venezuela circumvent international sanctions, propping up the regime financially. The new strategic pact vows to expand oil trading and joint development of new fields. Venezuela is more than an ally. It's a strategic asset, a dependable anti-American partner that provides Russia with a geographic and political anchor in the Western Hemisphere. Section 3, Pillar 2, Nicaragua, the Spy Hub. While Venezuela is Russia's military fortress, Nicaragua is its intelligence hub. Under the authoritarian rule of Daniel Ortega, a figure with deep ties to the Soviet Union, Nicaragua has become arguably Russia's most loyal partner in the region, eagerly transforming itself into a platform for Russian operations. The most visible symbol of this relationship is a facility on the edge of the Najapa Lagoon, just outside the capital, Managua. Surrounded by a concrete wall with access reportedly restricted, sits a large satellite dish. Officially, this is a ground station for GLONASS, Russia's alternative to the American GPS network, intended for peaceful purposes like weather monitoring and navigation. However, its location, pointedly built right across the lagoon from the U.S. Embassy, tells a different story. U.S. officials and security analysts widely believe the station has dual-use capabilities, serving as a sophisticated signals intelligence, or SIGINT, facility. Russia's own space agency has stated that GLONASS holds special significance to the effectiveness of tasks of the military forces. Experts suggest the station in Nicaragua gives Russia a vital listening post, capable of intercepting electronic communications across the continent. The cooperation goes far beyond satellites. Nicaragua's parliament has repeatedly authorized the temporary presence of Russian troops, ships, and aircraft for joint training exercises. In 2024, the two nations approved a draft agreement to deepen long-term military cooperation, covering everything from officer education to intelligence sharing. In parallel, Russia has established a police training center in Managua, instructing Nicaraguan security forces and deepening its influence within the country's repressive state apparatus. After Daniel Ortega expelled the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, he began cooperating with Russia's FSB for counter-narcotics intelligence, effectively swapping an American partner for a Russian one. Through Nicaragua, Russia isn't just gaining a friend, it's gaining eyes and ears in the heart of Central America. Section 4, Pillar 3, Cuba, the Ghost of the Past. The third pillar of Russia's strategy is Cuba, an island just 90 miles from Florida that carries immense symbolic weight. The relationship is a revival of Cold War alliances, but with a modern, pragmatic twist. For Russia, re-engaging with Cuba is a powerful psychological operation, meant to evoke the memory of the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis and signal to Washington that Moscow can once again project power into the Caribbean. In recent years, the waters around Cuba have seen a steady procession of Russian naval hardware. The June 2024 visit by the nuclear-powered submarine Kazan and the frigate Admiral Gorshkov was a highly publicized port call in Havana. While U.S. officials downplayed the visit as routine, noting the vessels weren't carrying nuclear weapons, its purpose was undeniably to send a message. These deployments are a direct response to Western support for Kyiv, a clear demonstration that Russia can create its own pressures in America's strategic neighborhood. The cooperation is not just naval. Cuba is a key node in Russia's information warfare network. Under the guise of cultural cooperation, Russia has launched initiatives like film festivals in Havana, organized by state structures to showcase propaganda justifying the war in Ukraine and cultivating anti-Western sentiment. Intelligence cooperation, a hallmark of the Soviet era, is also being revived. During the Cold War, Russia operated a massive SIGINT station at Lourdes near Havana. While that station closed in 2002, there are strong suspicions that a new, modern version of this intelligence sharing is being developed. For Cuba, a country mired in a severe economic crisis, Russia offers a vital economic and political lifeline. The increased ties provide resources, diplomatic support, and a powerful patron on the world stage. This renewed alliance serves both nations' interests. Cuba gets a buffer against U.S. pressure, and Russia gets a strategically located partner that carries the historical weight of a superpower confrontation. It's a ghost from the past, repurposed for the conflicts of the future. Section 5, the hybrid war machine, cyber and propaganda. Beyond the physical presence of ships and soldiers, Russia is waging a quieter, more insidious war across Latin America, a war fought on servers and social media networks. This is the core of its hybrid strategy, using information and cyber capabilities to destabilize democracies and undermine U.S. influence from within. Russia has built one of the world's most sophisticated disinformation machines, and Latin America is a prime target. State-sponsored media outlets like RT and Sputnik have massive Spanish-language operations, churning out content that mixes news with anti-U.S. narratives and pro-Kremlin propaganda. According to the U.S. State Department, the Kremlin is financing a well-funded campaign across the continent, using influence-for-hire firms to covertly co-opt local journalists and influencers. This network is particularly active during elections, seeking to amplify divisive discourse and support candidates favorable to Moscow's interests. The second front of this digital war is cyber attacks. Russian-speaking ransomware groups have been increasingly targeting Latin American governments and infrastructure. These attacks serve a dual purpose. They can generate revenue and sow chaos, demonstrating the vulnerability of states that align against Moscow. Russia has also developed advanced capabilities to disrupt critical infrastructure, like power grids, and has been actively working to gain access to these systems in adversarial countries. Russian technology is also being used to empower its authoritarian allies. Moscow has supplied advanced state surveillance systems to Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. This equipment increases the repressive capacity of these anti-U.S. regimes, allowing them to monitor their own citizens while also giving Moscow potential backdoor access to sensitive data. This digital assault is the invisible thread connecting Russia's military and political ambitions, a persistent, low-cost way to keep its primary adversary off balance. CT8. The picture that emerges is one of a deliberate, multifaceted, and escalating challenge. From warships in the Caribbean to spy stations in Central America and troll farms spreading disinformation online, Russia is actively working to transform Latin America into a contested space. But how does this compare to the knife's edge of 1962? Is this truly a prelude to a new Cuban Missile Crisis, or is the threat being exaggerated? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Conclusion: the current situation is not a mirror image of the Cuban Missile Crisis. There are no confirmed nuclear missile deployments, and Russia's ability to project sustained military power in the hemisphere remains limited compared to the United States. But to dismiss the threat on those grounds would be to misunderstand the nature of 21st century conflict. The new standoff is not about a single existential threat. It's a war of 1,000 cuts. It's a hybrid conflict where the battlefield is everywhere: in cyberspace, in the information space, and in the political arenas of allied nations. The danger today lies less in a dramatic nuclear exchange and more in the risk of miscalculation. What happens when a Russian-backed cyber attack cripples a key piece of U.S. infrastructure? How does the U.S. respond to the growing presence of Russian intelligence assets just a few hundred miles from its border? Russia's strategy is designed to create persistent, low-level friction to tie down American resources and to shatter the notion of the Western Hemisphere as a secure flank. It aims to prove that in this new multipolar world, there are no backyards. Every sphere of influence is contested. The chess pieces are moving, the board is set, and the game is already underway. The next Cuban Missile Crisis may not be announced with grand declarations, but may already be unfolding silently, one move at a time.